Every generation has one impossible job. Not simply to be faster, not simply to be more powerful, not even to become the most expensive. Its job is far more difficult than that, to become a legend. For McLaren, that responsibility has always belonged to one car. Not the car that sells the most, not the one that breaks the most lap records, but the one that defines the entire generation. The car that changes how the world thinks about performance. In the 1990s, it was the McLaren F1, a machine so revolutionary that more than 30 years later, people still argue that it has never truly been surpassed. Then more than 2 decades later came the P1, a hybrid hypercar that arrived just as the world questioned whether electricity belonged in performance cars. Instead of following the rules, it rewrote them. Together, the F1 and the P1 became more than just flagship McLarens, they became milestones. In automotive history, cars are remembered not because they were the fastest, but because they changed everything. Now McLaren has decided to try again. Not with another evolution, not with a facelift, not with a limited edition, but with something entirely new, the W1. A car carrying more pressure than perhaps any McLaren before it. Because replacing one legend is almost impossible. Replacing two may be the hardest challenge in the entire automotive industry. Some enthusiasts already believe nothing can ever equal the F1. Others insist that the P1 was the perfect balance between technology and emotion, which leaves the W1 facing an almost unfair question. Before anyone even drive it, can McLaren build a third legend? To answer that, we have to go back, long before hybrid power, long before carbon fiber road cars, back to a young racing driver from New Zealand. Who never set out to build hypercars. He only wanted to build racing cars that could win. Bruce McLaren wasn't interested in luxury. He wasn't chasing prestige. He wasn't trying to impress wealthy collectors. His obsession was competition. Born in New Zealand, Bruce quickly became one of the most brightest young talents in motorsport. By the age of 22, he already became the youngest Grand Prix winner in Formula 1 history. But driving wasn't enough. Bruce wanted something more. He wanted to build cars, his own cars. Cars designed exactly the way he believed racing machines should be built. Simple, lightweight, innovative, and relentlessly fast. So in 1963, he founded McLaren Racing, a small team with enormous ambition. The years that followed transformed McLaren into one of the most successful names in motorsport. Formula 1 victories, Can-Am domination, championship after championship. Every success reinforced that same philosophy. Performance doesn't come from excess, it comes from intelligent engineering. Empower if you must, but remove weight whenever you can, because lightness improves everything. Acceleration, cornering, braking, driver confidence, that single idea would eventually become the foundation of every great McLaren road car. Even after Bruce tragically lost his life in 1970, his philosophy never disappeared. It became part of the company DNA, and that same philosophy would inspire one engineer to attempt something the automotive world had never seen before. That engineer was Gordon Murray. His vision wasn't simply to build another exotic supercar. He wanted to build an ultimate driver's car. No compromise, no unnecessary luxury, no marketing gimmicks, only engineering. The result arrived in 1992, the McLaren F1. Immediately, the automotive world realized that this wasn't another Ferrari competitor. It was something entirely different. Its naturally aspirated BMW V12 produced incredible power, but the numbers alone didn't make it special. The driver sat in the center of the cockpit, perfectly aligned with the car. Visibility was extraordinary. The steering felt alive. Every control existed for one reason: to connect the driver to the machine. Every engine bay was lined with gold. Not because it looked expensive, but because gold reflected heat better than any other materials. Everything served a purpose. Nothing existed for decoration. Then came the number that shocked the world: 241 miles per hour without turbochargers, without electricity, without all-wheel drive. For years, no production car could match it. But speed wasn't the reason people fell in love with the F1. It was the experience. Every journey felt mechanical. Every input mattered. Nothing filtered the driver from the road. It was simply fast. It was alive. Even today, many enthusiasts still consider it the greatest road car ever built. Which created an impossible problem for McLaren. How do you replace perfection? The answer: you don't, you wait. For nearly 20 years, McLaren never attempted another flagship. The company continued racing, it continued innovating, it even entered the world of production sports cars, but another halo car never arrived. Some wondered if the F1 would remain once in a lifetime achievement. Perhaps even McLaren believed they could never build something worthy of its name. Meanwhile, the automotive industry kept evolving. Manufacturers chased bigger engines, more horsepower, higher top speed, then everything changed. Environmental regulations tightened, battery technology improved, Formula 1 entered the hybrid era. Suddenly, electric motors weren't simply about efficiency, they had become the performance tool. McLaren saw an opportunity, not to recreate the F1, but to redefine what a hypercar could be. In 2013, McLaren finally revealed its answer, the P1. From the moment the covers came off, comparison with the F1 began. People questioned the weight, the batteries, the electric motors. Many believed hybrid technology had no place inside the driver's car. Sounds familiar, history was repeating itself. And McLaren had learned something from Formula 1. Electricity wasn't replacing performance, it was enhancing it. The twin turbocharger V8 delivered enormous power. Electric motor filled every gap. Throttle response became immediate. Acceleration became relentless. The P1 didn't simply feel fast, it felt explosive. Then came the aerodynamics. The rear wing rose dramatically. Ride height changed automatically. Airflow transformed as speed increased. The entire car constantly adapted itself to the road beneath it. It wasn't just another supercar. It behaved like a racing car wearing number plates. The timing could even be more perfect. Because McLaren wasn't fighting alone. Ferrari answered with the LaFerrari. Porsche responded with the 918 Spider. Together, the three cars became known as the Holy Trinity of hypercars. Each approached performance differently. Ferrari focused on passion. Porsche pursued technology perfection. McLaren searched for an absolute driver engagement. Journalists debated endlessly. Owners argued for years. But one thing became undeniable. The P1 had earned its place besides two of the greatest performance cars ever built. Most importantly, it proved something many believed impossible. Hybrid technology hadn't killed excitement. It created a new definition of it. And once again, McLaren had built a legend. Building one legendary hypercar is rare. Building two is almost unheard of. But building a third may be the hardest challenge in automotive world, because every generation leaves behind expectations. And expectations becomes impossible to satisfy. F1 represented purity. The P1 represented innovation. The next flagship, someone had to honor both without becoming a copy of either. If McLaren built another natural aspirated masterpiece, people wouldn't call it nostalgic. If they pushed too far into electrification, people would say they had forgotten what made McLaren special. It was a balancing act with no obvious solution. Then came another surprise, the name. Not F2, not P2, not Ultimate, not even P1 Successor. Instead, McLaren chose W1. A single letter, a single number. Simple, yet filled with meaning. The W stands for World Championship, a tribute to every championship McLaren has earned through its racing history. Because before McLaren became famous for road cars, it became legendary on racetracks. The W1 wasn't simply created to celebrate two iconic road cars. It was created to celebrate every lesson learned through decades of competition. Every victory, every failure, every innovation. This wasn't meant to be another chapter. It was meant to be the beginning of an entirely new era. One of the easiest ways to make a hypercar look exciting is to make it dramatic. Massive wings, sharp angles, aggressive vents, enough carbon fiber to impress anyone walking past. But McLaren has always believed something different. The best design isn't created by an artist, it is created by physics. Every line on the W1 exists for a reason. Every vent guides air, every surface creates stability, every curve reduces turbulence. Nothing is decorative. At first glance, the W1 almost looks restrained. But the longer you study it, the more extraordinary it becomes. Large aerodynamic tunnels channel air through the body. The rear wing doesn't just rise, it transforms. The car's aerodynamic balance depends on speed and driving conditions. The suspension lowers dramatically in race mode. Ground effect technology generates enormous downforce while reducing drag. These aren't features designed for brochures. They are solutions designed through decades of Formula 1 engineering. Air is invisible. At over 200 miles per hour, it becomes one of the most powerful forces acting on a car. The W1 doesn't fight the air, it works with it. just like every championship winning McLaren before it. For years, many people assumed the next McLaren flagship would abandon combustion completely. After all, electric performance keeps improving, battery technology continues advancing, governments around the world continues pushing manufacturers toward electrification. But McLaren made a fascinating decision. The W1 still believes in internal combustion engine. That matters because emotion often begins with a sound, with vibration, with mechanical movement, things electricity alone still struggle to replace. At the heart of the W1 sits the McLaren all-new MHP8, twin-turbocharged V8, light, compact, more powerful than the engine it replaces. An engine designed not only to produce incredible numbers, but to respond instantly to every movement of the driver's right foot. Working alongside it is an electric motor, not to hide the engine, not to replace it, but to strengthen it. The electricity system delivers immediate torque. It fills every gap in the power bed. It sharpens every acceleration it makes. The combustion engine feels even more alive. Together, the system produces 1200 horsepower, enough to launch the W1 into every highest level of hypercar performance. But McLaren has never been obsessed with numbers. Horsepower alone has never defined greatness. Anyone can build a powerful engine. The real challenge is making that power feel usable, predictable, exciting. The W1 isn't trying to overwhelm its driver, it's trying to reward them. And that's a very different philosophy. Ask almost any manufacturer how to build a faster car. They will probably answer the same way, add more horsepower. But McLaren has always answered differently. Remove weight, because weight affects everything. Acceleration, braking, cornering, steering, fuel, tire weight, even driver's confidence. Power only helps in certain situations. Less weight helps everywhere. This same philosophy stretches all the way back to Bruce McLaren himself. Carbon fiber construction, lightweight suspension, relentless optimization, thousands of engineering decisions. Most owners will never notice, but they will definitely feel them every time they turn into a corner, every time they brake a little later, every time the car changes direction with almost unbelievable precision. The W1 isn't light because it sounds impressive. It's light because every kilogram removed makes the driver feel more connected to the road, and that connection has always mattered more than statistics. Modern hypercars have become astonishingly intelligent. Launch control, predictive traction system, artificial intelligence, computers making thousands of calculations every second. But they can also create distance between the driver and the machine. Sometimes it feels as though you are simply giving instructions while the car decides how to carry them out. McLaren never wanted that. The W1 wasn't built to replace the driver. It was built to improve them. The sitting position, the steering, the visibility, the pedals, every major control exists to strengthen the communication, not to weaken it. Technology works in the background, quietly, almost invisible, supporting the experience rather than dominating it. That's perhaps the greatest connection between the F1, the P1, and now the W1. They may use completely different technology, but they all chase the same feeling, making the driver feel like the most important component in the entire machine. Here's the challenge no engineer can escape. The W1 isn't being judged against today's hypercar. It's being judged against history, against memories, against nostalgia, against two cars many enthusiasts consider untouchable. And nostalgia is a difficult opponent because memories become more perfect over time. Even legendary cars grows larger in our imagination. Every sound becomes sweeter. Every drive becomes more unforgettable, which means the W1 has entered a competition where logic isn't always enough. It has to compete with emotion. Some people have already decided the F1 will never be beaten. Others believe the P1 represents the perfect balance between the old excitement and the modern technology. Perhaps they are right, perhaps they aren't, because every legend McLaren faced criticism when it arrived. F1 was considered impossibly expensive. The P1 was criticized for becoming a hybrid. Yet time changed those opinions. History has a habit of rewarding courage, not caution. Maybe that's why the story of the W1 matters so much. Because this isn't simply the launch of another hypercar. It's another turning point. Another moment where McLaren has chosen evolution over comfort, just as it did with the F1, just as it did with the P1. The easiest thing McLaren could have done would have been to recreate the past, build another naturally aspirated icon, repeat in nostalgia, sell memories. Instead, they chose to move forward. They built a car that embraces new technology without forgetting the philosophy that made the company famous in its first place. Lightness, innovation, driver engagement, those principles remained unchanged. Only the tools have evolved. Perhaps that's the true legacy of McLaren. Not a particular engine, not a specific design, not even a certain level of performance. Its legacy is the willingness to change itself, to question convention, to risk criticism in pursuit of something better. Because legends are never created by playing itself. They are created by daring with something the world have never seen before. Will the W1 become as iconic as the F1? Will it someday be remembered alongside the P1? Only time can answer those questions. Legends aren't decided on launch day. They are earned through years of driving, years of memories, years of inspiring the next generation of engineers, enthusiasts, and dreamers. And maybe one day when McLaren unveils the car destined to replace the W1, people will ask the very same question they're asking today. How do you replace a legend? If that happens, then the W1 will have already accomplished its mission, not by repeating history, but by becoming part of it.